Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Today we will be reading day 26 in our Mayflower series, Orchid, Elegance. As always, information will be in the description. Fairy tales were things told to children so that they could believe in things that didn't exist. Children would believe in magic and unconditional love and happily ever after. But Janus wasn't a child. He knew the only magic there was in the world was the magic you made. He knew that love came with strings. He knew that happily ever after was only for those who could afford it. He continued to scrub the floors of the mansion he worked in. It was a lucrative job, one he was surprised he had managed to get. Many people believed him unclean because of his birthmark, the way it scaled down his face and dipped into his neck and shoulder. Those same people didn't believe he could have a cleaning job. He had no other options. He wasn't skilled in a trade, and anything that faced a lot of people, like selling things for merchants, was going to have the same issue. No one wanted to face his ugly truth. The two men he worked for, brothers, weren't awful bosses. They had actually treated him better than anyone else had. But they were out of touch. Both of them constantly had their heads in the clouds. Roman spent most of his day daydreaming or coming up with schemes to woo the prince. He was an airhead. But what writer wasn't? Remus, the other brother, was a scientist, and that made Janus like him less by default. There wasn't a single big thing that had made him wary of Remus, but it was a lot of little things. Remus would ask about his birthmark a lot. He would ask about things that were far too personal, and he seemed to demonstrate a complete lack of understanding regarding personal space. Janus was certain that he wouldn't be surprised if the police came by to arrest Remus one day. Honestly, that made him more interesting, even if he kept his guard up around the scientist. Listening to him talk was much more entertaining than listening to Roman, and they had both realized that while Janus was cleaning, they had a captive audience. At least tonight he would have peace and quiet. The king, concerned his son would never find a companion, had asked for every non-wed citizen of the country between the ages of 24 and 30 to come to the castle dressed in their finest clothes for a ball. There was an understanding that anyone who showed up would be able to spend time with the prince, getting to know him and likewise he getting to know them. Janus had entertained the notion, but with the way Roman spoke of Prince Logan, Janus wasn't sure he was interested. He would much rather have a day of peace and quiet. That was why, when Roman descended the stairs 2 at a time, Janus already had his answer prepared. "Are you sure you wouldn't like to come with me and meet the prince?" "I'm sure I would find his company quite droll, but do tell me how you enjoy it." Roman nodded and bounded off. "You know, just because you don't want to see the prince doesn't mean you shouldn't go." Remus was sitting on the banister, apparently having just slid down it and still precariously placed. Janus rolled his eyes, about to say something, when Remus continued. "There is the Royal Library." He snapped his mouth shut at that, turning to look at him. The only reason the mad scientist knew he had a fondness for books was due to catching him one time returning from the bookstore. Janus might save most of the money he got from his job, but books held power, and even just a few as a treat did a number for his mental health. Remus could tell he had hooked him, but just sat there with a smirk. "I don't have anything to wear." "Of course, it's not like I don't have a myriad of frilly things I could work up into a dress for you, if you're willing to go that route." A dress would be nice. He wouldn't be against the idea. "No one will allow me in." "With your birthmark? I think you're being a bit dramatic, but I have a half mask. I'm sure you would have fun with the edge of mystery." Janus slowly stood, grabbing the bucket he had been using. He couldn't blame Remus for not understanding what he had gone through because of his birthmark. However, He also believed that the scientist genuinely didn't care and didn't think it was a problem. A mask would make it a bit easier, but still. My chores. Roman was already offering to let you go. I doubt he would be mad if the floors waited until tomorrow. What are you really afraid of, JJ? What was he afraid of? Rejection? Dismissal? Nothing that warranted him turning down a free opportunity to read as it was being handed to him on a platter. Fine. I will let you make this stupid dress. Remus clapped, jumping off the banister and running back upstairs. This was a mistake. This was a huge mistake. But what could he do? He really wanted to see the palace library. He wondered if he could get away with swiping a book. If the dress Remus made was poofy enough, he probably could. How much trouble would he get in for stealing a book? None if he didn't get caught. Janus followed him upstairs, thinking the situation over. It would be nice to have a night off, to explore the palace a little bit. He was curious about dressing up. He hadn't gotten the chance before. Remus apparently worked fast because by the time Janus was actually in the room, Remus was pulling a stitch tied on a dress. Okay, try this on. Let's see if it looks good. The mask is going to take me a bit longer. Did you just have this lying around? No, of course not. I designed it 2 weeks ago, just in case. Just in case. Were you planning all of this? I plan for a lot of things. Try to keep up. Remus pushed him around, pinning and stitching and making the dress fit his body. Janus had to say he looked gorgeous in it when it was done. He swished his hips from side to side, watching as the black fabric turned iridescent in the light. This was peak elegance, and he knew it. His breath caught in his throat as he looked up. All right, just gotta get that mask fitted, though I don't think you need it. Remus started working on fitting a black mask to Janus's face. His birthmark still showed a bit over his neck, but he couldn't fathom being bothered by it right now. Not when he looked so good. And maybe some gloves, just to complete the whole look. It was another half hour before Janus was walking out of the house, being pushed into a carriage by the scientist who might have finally surpassed his brother on the scale of who he liked more. Remember, have fun, try not to kill anyone. Janus was absolutely going to do just that. Thank you for listening. Again, this was day 26 in our May Flowers series, Orchid, Elegance. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.